Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of anywhere else? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time, they talk down to us, they think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. All right, we're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about, are you surprised that Jokic is struggling? Now, I wasn't going to do this clip because it's like a very short little clip, and I had just done the clip of should Jamal be suspended, and so now this was playing at the end while I was trying to set up the next clip. I'm exhausted. I've been recording all day, and I heard Nick now go on a rant, and oh my god, these clips lately have been making my head want to absolutely explode. Because Nick's about to go on a whole rant. And normally I don't know the clips before time, so this is a rare situation. And so Nick goes on a rant about the problems with the media or the problems of like calling certain players out and how we have to be consistent about it. And he doesn't realize that he is that problem. So let's take a listen to this clip and then we're going to unpack it there.
It didn't.
No.
Yes, of course I'm surprised Joker's struggling. And I want to know, what I want across the board, Wilds, what do they call me?
Mr. Consistency.
And I wish more people were.
Oh. Well, then that would hurt your brand.
Yeah, but you know what? But the world would be a more just place. Does the three-time MVP get held to the same standards as the three old guys in the league? Because I know when Draymond loses his mind, there's a conversation, fair or not, how much of that's on Steph?
No, you are the one that made that a conversation. This is what made my head explode from the very beginning. There's more, but this is what made my head explode when he said that. Because he was the one that said, how much of this is on Steph? Do you see what Steph did? How he gave him a high five after that game? Steph needs to do more. And I said, I don't went on a whole rant. I went, what are you talking about? What do you want Steph to do in that moment? Scream at Draymond? Steph did amazing leadership by keeping his composure in that moment. You have no idea what Steph is doing, behind the scenes. So don't put Draymond's behavior on Steph or now criticize Steph for how he acted, after the game while still giving Draymond a high five or saying, nothing too extreme in the press conference. So he is the one that has now made that moment worse than it should have been.
Would anyone today be like, how much of the team meltdown is on Joker? Of course not. That's unfair. When the Suns get beat by this team, what is this, Kevin Durant? Where's he going? What's going to happen?
Again, you're the one who says Kevin Durant is irrelevant, that he has made terrible choices and that it's his fault. And then I come back and always say, no, it's not. What are you talking about? 1, he's older. 2, he's had a lot of injuries. And 3, he's not on a great team. Like, what do you want from him? They're outmatched. They weren't as good as the Timberwolves, this season, obviously. The Timberwolves are young, fast, and ready to go. So that's not on, that's not on KD. LeBron James needed an AD to be able to do anything at this point in his career. And KD doesn't have an AD. You definitely can't rely on Devin Booker. Devin Booker just decides to disappear for long stretches. So, again, he's the one that has now called out KD in those moments.
Is that going to happen for the guy who right now is at the apex of the mountain? When LeBron James loses the previous round and misses a couple box outs, we say, okay, I know they fired the coach, but was it really because LeBron wasn't hustling enough when
Which, I know I'm going moment by moment on this one, which I normally do not do. Again, it's really funny, though, because he calls out Steph Curry. He calls out KD. He calls out Draymond. He calls out the coaches. And then when he gets to LeBron James, he defended LeBron James on that one. He didn't let LeBron James take any blame. Funny how that works, right? But funny how that works. Now, for the record, I don't blame LeBron James. I specifically said LeBron James is older. He's doing everything he can. His team is only good enough. His team's not good enough. And if LeBron James was 5 years younger, they beat the Denver Nuggets. So he says he's Mr. Consistent. He's not consistent at all. At all.
Joker hasn't played 5 minutes of defense this playoffs. Anthony Davis didn't have his career best offensive output on nobody. And yesterday, yes, Anthony Edwards had an amazing turnaround. He also had a few just free run layups because Joker's just swiping the ball and backing up. He is a great player. He is arguably the greatest player in the game today. But heavy is the head that wears the crown for everyone who's ever worn it. And if you are the prohibitive favorite in a must-win game in your building with the other team's guy who guards you out, and you know showing your team melts down, is there any other superstar in league history that wouldn't have been the lead?
So this is what's interesting too, because he talks about how he cried the other day about how LeBron James gets all this, undue scrutiny that no other superstar has gotten. And I said, well, when you're the GOAT, when you're in conversation to be the GOAT, that's what happens. All your negatives get magnified and all your positives get magnified. And I don't feel bad for you because you know what? That's a pretty good situation to be in when people are trying to figure out, are you the greatest basketball player of all time in the history of the universe? So it's like, and you also get paid a gajillion dollars. So I don't have any sympathy in that regard. So again, like if Nick wanted to be consistent about that and say we shouldn't be criticizing LeBron James, yada, 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 then he should be saying, listen, we shouldn't criticize Jokic. Jokic can only do so much. And, I want to be consistent. And so I've defended LeBron. And now I'm going to defend Jokic. But instead, he's like, well, this is what the other people are doing. So now I'm going to take my opportunity to now call out Jokic. Pretty funny.
History?
Well, it's in modern media league history. I'm talking about best player in the league. You know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's bizarre to me. He gets all the flowers of the best, and none of the fair or not it's shrapnel that comes with it. And it just feels like it's a double standard.
Okay. To Nick's point now, as I've already disarmed and completely unraveled Nick's arguments in the past, and I always feel like when I go hard on Nick or on this show, especially if you're a first-time viewer, I love this show. I love Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, Wilds. Love this show. Big fan. So if you're out there watching, I'm not hating. But I do got to pick apart you sometimes. Got to pick apart the arguments, especially when they're just dead wrong or inconsistent. But I do get what he's saying. That if this was LeBron James or Steph Curry or KD, the top of the show would be, LeBron James fails. Steph Curry fails. What is going on? Yada, yada, yada. And Jokic is not getting that same level of heat. And this is why I think it's because he's not outspoken like the LeBron Jameses of the world, like the Steph Currys of the world. He's not as in your face popular. Okay? He's just not. Yes, I understand NBA fans know him and like him. And he's even now starting to be in some of these commercials. But he's not famous. Jokic could probably walk around a grocery store, and outside of basketball fans, nobody would know who he was. They would be looking at him because the guy's giant. But people would not be like, oh my God, I think that's Nikola Jokic. I can almost guarantee it. LeBron James walks down the grocery aisle. Everyone knows who he is. My mom's grabbed my arm saying, I think that's LeBron. And I'm like, that's not LeBron. Oh my God, that is LeBron. Steph Curry. Some of these stars, bona fide stars, the Kobe Bryants, the Shaqs, who are, Shaq is obviously also larger than life. So it's not only that he might be the best player, because let's say he is the best player, he's not the most popular player. And we know that because we still see all of the media still going all in, whether it be First Take, First Things First, Con Cowherd, any of these shows, they're still talking about KD, LeBron James, Steph Curry, right? They rather talk about, should LeBron James and Steph Curry team up? Because that drives more clicks. It's kind of what JJ Redick was talking about. They rather talk about that than talk about Jokic because Jokic does not move the needle enough. He's not popular enough. He is the best or one of the best. I don't want to get into business. I think it's always a dumb debate of who's the best player right now in the league. It doesn't matter to me. They all do different things. So it doesn't matter to me. So I always say one of the best. He's one of the best players in the NBA right now, but it's not mega popular. Okay? The 14, 15-year-olds who are outside, playing with their friends, they're not imagining that they're Jokic. They're just not. Anyone who has access to younger kids will know this. Who has like little brothers or sisters or, children of their own or whatever, cousins, like, this. Like they are still, they still want to be Steph Curry. They still want to be Michael Jordan. LeBron James, like they still, that's who they want. And I understand Jokic is popular. I'm not saying he's unpopular. His jerseys are still obviously selling and he's obviously in commercials. So I'm not saying that he's unpopular, but it's just different. And it also is different when you don't have that person. LeBron James puts himself in front of the camera and says, I am the king on his back, the chosen one. So yeah, when you fail, you are like, well, why'd you fail, huh? Why'd you fail? You said you were the chosen one. You said you were unstoppable. Huh? What's going on? Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. Well, and make no mistake about it, Steph Curry has been criticized from the jump of his career, especially from the moment he started winning. At every step of the way, people were like, well, is he really the MVP? Is even LeBron James said, well, there's a difference between the best player and the MVP. Then when they won the championship and they won the ring, he didn't get the MVP. So Steph Curry has been pulled down every step of the way in his career. And so I just think, I also wonder if it is an international versus American thing. But I don't think it is, because I think when Dallas Mavericks come up short, Luka gets blamed. But Luka is also wildly outspoken. Wildly, animated, getting in fights with refs, fans, players. He's combative. He's physical. It's different. Jokic is just like, this is just my job. He's punch in, punch out. So it does land a little differently when they lose. It's almost like, yeah. But I do get it, because I didn't blame LeBron James for losing against Steph Curry and the Warriors. When he puts up like 50 points. I'm like, what are we saying? LeBron James just needed to score 60 points and then that means they would have won? It's just like, LeBron James didn't lose those series against the Warriors or lose those series against the Spurs. He was beat by them. And that's okay. So I just think there's a difference to these types of things. And so for this game, and I always look through games at this, whether it's football or basketball specifically, I always say, did this team win or did this team lose? And it sounds like a silly question to ask, and I think it's skipped over way too frequently. And people never like to hear it. People never like to hear it. When I say, oh, the Chiefs actually, the other team actually lost that game rather than the Chiefs win that game. That seems to be one of my most controversial statements I could ever make on this channel. People get very upset when I make those claims. And the Nuggets didn't lose this game. Minnesota won both those games. They are making Jokic look bad and not good. Jokic isn't just being bad or off. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the lead of the day should be, look how great the Timberwolves are, and not look how bad the Nuggets are playing. And I talked about this with someone in the comments. How we were talking about this, how it's sad that when the Timberwolves were playing against the Phoenix Suns, that when they beat them, the talk was more about the Phoenix Suns losing and KD rather than look how amazing the Minnesota Timberwolves are. And then now that they're starting to finally talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, he's all excited. He's like, oh my God, they're actually talking about my team. And that matters. So I just think, Nick Wright says, what's fair, what's unfair. Nick, man, you have your own show. Like you have a lot of pull on this. I confess, I don't know how much. Maybe your producers really do come to you and say, this is what we're talking about. And if you say, no, I want to talk about something different, they're like, I don't care, Nick. I'm the producer. I'm the boss. I make more money than you. I think Nick has lots of influence, but Nick has the ability to influence these topics and things that he wants to say. He certainly has influence of what he says. So if he wants to be the change in the media, well, then be the change in the media. It's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm very adamant about not giving, these 100% this is what's going to happen takes, because that's all that we see on TV. Everyone has to pick one or the other. And I'm always like, wait a second. There's a lot more in between here. Let's not, let's get lost in the weeds, actually. Let's dig in deep. Let's not just do these superficial, LeBron James needs to play better. That's lazy. I don't want to do lazy. I want to do interesting and fun and try to be the most accurate. And if the most accurate conclusion is, I don't know, then that's what I'm going to say. But that is one thing that all these guys refuse to say on TV. I do not know. And I will never be afraid to say that. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. This has been a day, guys. This really has been. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm exhausted. It's so hot. It's so hot now, and I need to figure out how to get a fan in here without making noise, because I am struggling. The struggle is real. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys think? Are you surprised that Jokic is struggling? And what do you think about the lack of criticism from him? Like, what do you think's driving? And do you agree or disagree with what Nick was saying? Let me know in the comments below whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And again, please don't forget to subscribe. We really are building an absolutely amazing community. It's growing. It's awesome. It's better than I could have ever imagined, quite honestly. And I think you'll really be happy to be part of it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.